To appeal it to the commission, to the council. There's appeal forms over on the right here next to the railing. If you wish to speak, there's also speaker cards over there. Fill one out and turn it in to the staff. Phones and pagers, please put them on silent or turn them off. Each side will have 10 minutes to speak on each case with a 5-minute rebuttal. And after the case is heard, if you wish to have some discussion among yourselves, please exit the building. Just don't go out in the lobby because that sound comes back in here. Please rise for the invocation by Ron and Pledge of Allegiance by Martha.
Gracious Father, once again, we come to you to say thank you for all the blessings you bestowed in our lives. We thank you for this opportunity once again to represent the parish, Lord, and we thank you for all the commissioners. We thank you for the residents that's present and those that we represent today. In all these blessings, we ask that the decisions we make be in the best interest of them. In all these blessings, we ask in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we go any further on the agenda, I'd like to take Chairman's prerogative on this. Our normal secretary, Leslie DeLotte, has moved up in the parish organization, and she's now working in legal for code enforcement. And we have a new secretary. Her name is Kathy Osterly. And I'd like to take a minute and just welcome Kathy. All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I think it'd be appropriate for the commission to pass a resolution thanking Leslie for her long service and her exemplary service. She has been an exemplary recording secretary for us, and she's moving on. And if it would be appropriate to have that resolution placed in her employment file.
Unanimous second?
Second.
Okay. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. The next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the July 1st meeting. There was a draft copy in each of your packets. Hopefully you had an opportunity to review them. Are there any corrections that need to be made to these minutes? Seeing none, I'll accept a motion for approval. Moved by Ms. Casalbon, seconded by Mr. Drum. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. Staff, we have any cases that need to be postponed?
No, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right. We have, I believe, an item that we need to move up.
Yes, I'd like to make a recommendation to move up zoning case ZC 9608046. It's the last zoning case in your packet.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Matthews. Any discussion? Please vote. Motion to move up carries. All right, this is item 16 on page 4 of the agenda. Zoning case 96-08-046, major amendment to the PUD, Plan Unit Development Overlay. It's 939.1 acres. The petitioner is A. Wayne Burris and Paul Marone. The owner is Beatico Creek Preserve LLC, parcel located on the west side of Louisiana 1085, south of I-12, Ward 1, District 1. Staff?
The request consists of an increase in the total number of platted units, resulting in an increase in the total square footage of green space from 550.18 acres to 551.97 acres, and staff would like to recommend approval.
Thank you. Mr. Marone.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Paul Marone on behalf of Beatico Creek Preserve LLC and the Beatico Creek Development. As the commission members are aware from various other matters that have become before this commission on this project, the approval for Beatico Creek was a little bit unique in that it was a PUD, but rather than having a detailed PUD plan that showed the proposed location of each lot, the plan that was approved created what we've referred to as bubbles, which are areas that will be developed, but without the specific location of the lots. In these bubbles, there is specific criteria, the maximum number of lots and so forth. The amendment tonight is simply to give some definition to a few of those bubbles. So we're taking it from a blank slate, using the criteria that you and the council have already approved, and filling in a few of those. In particular, we're filling in what is Bubble 1 and Bubble 2. The result is that we are platting 141 new lots. Now, it's important to understand that these are not lots that we're creating anew in the sense that they are already within the maximum density that is allowed. We're simply giving them a location on the plan. In fact, in Bubble 2, the criteria establishes a maximum density of 160 lots in that area. We're proposing 106. And in Bubble 1, I believe 96 units are allowed, and we're only proposing 10 units in that particular area. As Ms. Lambert noted, the overall green space is actually going up a small fraction. So ultimately, we are staying in compliance with what you have already approved. We're giving definition to Bubbles 1 and Bubble 2. And we're making the PUD consistent with what we will then come back to you with on the preliminary and tentative approvals in the planning process. If we were to have come before you in planning on these new areas without first amending the PUD, then it would have set up a conflict between what was approved on the PUD and what we were pursuing with regards to tentative and preliminary. So the step tonight will give definition to these bubbles. We'll then come back to you as part of the planning process, present you with detailed plans for these areas, and ask that we be able to move through the planning process in accordance with what we've done this evening. With that said, I would respectfully request approval, but I'll be happy to answer any questions the commission may have, as I understand this is a little bit of a unique situation.
Thank you, Mr. Morone. Let's see if there's anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on this. Seeing none, I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Mr. Matthews.
Paul, a couple of quick questions, if you would.
Sure.
How many bubbles are we defining here tonight?
2, Bubble
Okay.
1 and Bubble 2.
Okay, and can you give us a description of where those bubbles are for the record?
Yes. Bubble 2, I'm not sure what you're looking at, but I believe on what you are, yes. Bubble 2 is what is labeled on that map as Parcel 2. It is just to the southeast of what is Bubble 3. If you see Bubble 3, which is still a bubble, the lot layout, which is just to the southeast, is identified as Parcel 2, and that is what was Bubble 2.
Okay, so Parcel 2 and Bubble 2 are the same thing?
That is correct.
Okay.
And if you go down to the bottom of the plan and you see Parcel B, where it identifies 19 lots, and there are 4 large lots, lots 363 through 369.
Parcel B?
Parcel B, that is correct.
Okay, I don't see those. Yeah, but I don't see those numbers.
If you'll follow the entrance road, you'll see the first parcels you
South
come to.
Fairway Drive?
If you come in at Beatico Creek Boulevard,
Okay,
and you'll see there is a 3-acre commercial parcel on the left-hand side.
okay,
Then next to that is a garden offices, 5.9 acres.
right,
Right to the west of that is Parcel B.
okay. There are large lots, 7, 8, 9, and 10. That's on my map.
Yes.
4 large, right next to the garden offices.
Yes.
We have different
that's-
numbers.
I have different numbers,
Okay,
but that
that's
is
what I was-
parcel B.
okay.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
good.
correct. That's correct.
Okay. And right across South Fairway, the 172 to 178, are those also included?
Those are not included. Those were previously platted. Yes, those were previously
Okay,
platted.
so 1 through 10 on parcel B is bubble 3?
That is bubble 1.
1, okay.
That's correct.
We'll get this figured out. It's a little- This is a little different.
This is a little bit different, I
And-
understand.
And what we're doing here tonight is not increasing or decreasing the acreage in the PUD.
No, we are staying within the boundaries that were established.
And we're not increasing or decreasing the number of lots that are to be in this PUD.
That is correct.
What we are increasing is the amount of green space.
That is correct.
And how much are we increasing the green space?
Minimally, I believe less than an acre,
But it is a small increase.
just over, almost 2 acres, almost 2 acres.
Good. I have no other questions, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Davis.
Yeah, Paul, I do have one other question. So after bubble 1 and bubble 2 will develop here, you'll still have left bubble 3 and bubble 4 to develop, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. When you come back to this commission and you give us the plans for those, that's gonna increase the total density of the PUD though, wouldn't it?
No,
So this basing of 942 lots will not change?
that is correct.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Davis to approve, seconded by Mr. Matthews. Do we have any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Morone. All right, back to page 1, item 1, zoning case 08-01-007, major amendment to the planned unit development overlay PUD, an addition of 22.3 acres of planned unit development overlay. The acres are 74.3 acres, adding the 22.3 brings to a total of 92.61. Petitioner's Gulf States Real Estate Services LLC, the owner is Messiah Land LLC and Lucky 7 Irrevocable Trust. Parcel located on the north of I-12, west of Holiday Square, south of Versailles subdivision, Ward 3, District 5. Staff?
The commercial subdivision is not proposed to be developed with a total of 20 lots. It was originally approved to be developed with a total of 23 lots. The lots are identified on the plan by 3 different colors representing the maximum height allowable for each area. Note that on the new staff reports as well as the new plans that have been submitted to you, that the maximum allowable height in Area 2 is proposed to be between 40 feet and 60 feet. The rear yard setback have been adjusted according to the maximum height allowable within Area 2, and by taking into consideration that a portion of Area 2 is directly abutting a Versailles residential subdivision. At this time, staff would like to recommend approval of the proposed addition to the PUD and the major amendment to the PUD.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Please state your name.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Jason Reibert, Gulf States Real Estate Services. Here with Terry Blackwell with Gulf States Real Estate Services. We're here this evening on behalf of Lucky 7 Trust and Versailles Land LLC. The case before you this afternoon, or this evening, is a major amendment to the PUD that was approved back in 2008, and also includes an additional 22 acres of PUD, which will allow us to connect Holiday Square Boulevard to Holiday Boulevard to the north. As part of the roadway extension, some additional lots were created off of this new roadway, which involves some amendments to the existing PUD plan that was previously approved. This new roadway alignment does allow for more efficient means of egress and ingress into the site. The previous plan, from a marketability and development standpoint, was limited through a single means of ingress and egress through Holiday Square Boulevard. At this time, if you've had any questions, I'd be happy to go over any further specifics with you.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, does anyone else wish to speak on this? Yes, sir, come up and state your name. If you haven't filled out a speaker card, please do so.
Mr. Chairman, my name's David Kerr. I filled out a speaker card.
I see it here now.
Okay, thank you. My question is simple on this one. I'm wondering if there's any way we could defer a decision on this just until I've had time to look over it. I just received the information back today, this afternoon, and I'm just reading through it right now for the first time. It's as simple as that. I don't have any concerns at this point in time. I'm with the Versailles subdivision. That's where I live. And I just have some questions, that may come up as I go through and review it. That's it.
Okay, I understand what you're saying. It was just handed to us this evening. And so I'm sure that most of the commissioners have not had an opportunity. Ms. Casabon?
I agree that if there's not any other opposition, I was thinking the same thing, that now that we have a new report that we haven't digested, I think it's only prudent that we do table this until we have a chance
Okay,
to
let me see,
go
Mr.
over
Kirk, if
it.
there's
But
anyone
other
else. I see it.
concerns I'd like to hear.
No, he doesn't have a hand up. He's got a camera up. Does anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this? Okay, I see two more lights on. Martha, did you?
That was just, I was gonna make a motion to table, and so we can look over and read this.
Second.
Okay, a motion by Ms. Casabon to postpone to the September meeting, seconded by Mr. Davis. Mr. Matthews?
I just want to, emphasize to staff and the developer, we got a totally new report. And when I say totally new, it went from deny to approve. 3 new maps and a great deal of new information about 45 minutes ago. There is not a chance in the world that anybody on this commission can give something like this the interest and inspection that it requires and deserves. You just can't give us this 30 minutes before the meeting and expect us to do anything. Quite frankly, it'd probably been better if you would have asked to postpone it, I know I would have felt better about it. But I agree with Martha, we have to postpone this.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second to postpone zoning case 08-01-007. Please vote. Motion carries to postpone. Thank you. All right, item 2, zoning case 14-08-062, existing zonings NC4, Neighborhood and Institutional District, proposed zonings HC2 Highway Commercial District. It's .8535 acres. Petitioner is Jeff Shane. The owner is Elegant Home Builders Incorporated, parcel located on the north side of Louisiana Highway 36, east of St. Landry Street, being a portion of Lot 4, Block 10, Garland's, Covington, and Claiborne addition, Ward 3, District 2. Staff?
The 2025 Future Land Use Plan calls for the area to be developed with commercial uses. Considering that the Highway 36 corridor is developed with a mix of single-family, multifamily residences, commercial and industrial uses, staff does not have any objections to the request and recommends approval.
Thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wish to speak on this item? I see no hands, so I'm going to close the floor.
Mr.
You're up,
Chairman, I
baby.
think Mr. Shane has just entered the building. Good evening. Good evening.
Well, we could have handled
Boy,
this.
talk about the nick of time.
You ready for me? Has staff report been read?
Yes,
Excuse me, I've been at a City of Covington council meeting,
y'all are swapping.
and,
Well, this is a parish thing, so it's more important.
yes. Oh, I know what's more important. Good evening, and Jeff Shane of Jones Fussell, and I represent the property owner and also the petitioner in this matter, Elegant Home Builders, Inc. As most of you probably understand from having listened to the staff report and looking at the vicinity map attached thereto, my client owns a property that is developed currently a commercial use on Highway 36 on the north side. And somewhat interestingly, we find ourselves surrounded by other commercial uses and literally abutting an HC2 use on our west side. For those of you that aren't particularly familiar with the area, I would like to at least point out the uses of the businesses that are abut us, because I think it will make you feel comfortable that this is in fact an HC2 use and environment. That includes the mini storage facility, which is to the far west, the former Hardy Automotive, which was an automotive repair shop, Frenchie's Catering, which is a catering establishment that caters a lot of the film production and other things that are going on in our parish now. My client owns a building called Dependable Siding, which is in fact subject property where he currently operates his business. And then immediately to east and abutting him is American Building Products. The principal reason for wanting the highway commercial zoning is so that my client can diversify his business and do some things that would involve some outdoor activities or operations, things that would go beyond the NC4. So we feel that he's not abandoning the property, intends to keep it as his ownership, as for the primary operation of his business. That's where its office is located. But after consulting with staff, we recognized that we needed more zoning. So we would appreciate your consideration of our request and hope that you will recommend HC2 for this property. If any of you have any questions, I will be glad to address them at the proper time.
Thank you, Mr. Shane. I'll ask one more time, anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this case? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commissioners. Mr. Matthews.
Yeah, I took a look at this, and much of this property along here is either HC2 or probably should be zoned HC2. And it's pretty apparent that along this strip for some distance will probably be highway commercial, if not in the very near future, in the future, not too far distant. And I think this is an appropriate zoning for this area, and move to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Matthews to approve, seconded by Mr. Willie. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you much.
All right, page 2, item 3, zoning case 14-08-063. The existing zoning is NC2, indoor retail and service district. The proposed zoning is NC4, neighborhood institutional district. It's 4.48 acres. The petitioner is Tab Shepherd and Home Bank. Owner is Home Bank, parcel located on the west side of Louisiana 25, south of Thompson Road. Being 78263 Highway 25 Folsom, Ward 2, District 3. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the site to be developed with institutional uses. The site is currently developed with an office warehouse. Staff does not have any objection to the requested zoning change, considering that it would meet the objective of the 2025 comprehensive plan to allow for institutional uses on the site, as well as other uses which provide services for the surrounding area. Also note that there's a rural overlay on the site which allows some of the permitted use under NC3 and NC4 zoning districts, such as bed and breakfast and religious uses. At this time, staff would like to recommend approval.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to speak on this? Yes, ma'am. Come forward. State your name. If you haven't filled out a speaker card, please do so.
I am Bruce Nesbitt with the Northwest St. Tammany Civic Association. I wish we could turn back time and have the church come back up here at this location. But our association was heavily involved when the church moved out and a shredding company moved in. We worked with, at that time, a conditional use permit for them. It's since moved over to the Generac people, who I don't even really think they had a license to operate there. But we don't really have a problem with the NC4 if it didn't involve the size of the building. The additional occupancies seem innocuous enough, and as Helen stated, the rural overlay already gives you the institutional that you want. It's got a bed and breakfast and a church. It would already be allowed on an NC2 with a rural overlay. Our problem is with the minimum size of the building. Now, I understand that there is the old church building is there, and it's 11,000 square feet. But I did have a conversation with the realtor who's trying to sell this property, and she said it was her interest in getting the broadest commercial zoning she could because she wants to sell it for a strip shopping center, and that she thought that the 5,000 square feet in NC2 wouldn't quite get it. Well, I kind of agree. And I think that if we want to try and protect this strip of road between Brill Road to the north, or even Thompson Road. Well, no, let's go all the way to Brill Road, because there's a bunch of stuff there on the west side. Down to Brennett Bridge Road, I think, is our most at-risk section of Highway 25 right now. And I think that the NC2 is there. There's nothing we can do about it. But if somebody really wanted to put a strip shopping center up there, they would probably need to tear that old church building down. It's set too far back. And then with an NC4, they could put 12,500 square feet up close to the highway. And I really think we don't want that. You know, we're just trying to get used to the Family Dollar store. And I think that if with the NC2, there's commercial development allowed, but we can control it by limiting, it's the square footage. NC2 is 5,000 maximum square feet for the building. And if you go to NC4, it makes a huge difference. Huge difference. And we respectfully request that you keep this at NC2.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and.
My name is Enrique Carvajal, and I own the property adjoining this particular parcel of land. We have been living there for 20 years. We have been paying our mortgage for 20 years, so it's just a significant investment for us. We are not rich people by any means. And what we have been having some problems because every time that there's been a zoning change for this property, the size of the property and the people, the increased use of the building has caused problems with a septic tank for that property that is not adequately designed for that property. So there's a drainage field in the back that backs onto our property, and it has a series of pipes, and the extra effluents from the spray from the septic tank gets sprayed here, and anytime that the wind comes in our direction, it's like we have to close all our windows. You know, we have to live inside with the air conditioner, and we step out, and it's really nauseous sometimes. So this problem, as more and more people move into this, is becoming an increasing problem. So I would like to request that in any new zoning change or any new business there, that this matter be considered, and the extra noise that may be caused by any property there, as well as any light pollution, because you know, one of the reasons why we moved there 20 years ago was because it was dark and it was quiet, and I know that progress is coming, and I know that that's unavoidable, but we need to be able to live on our property as decent human beings, and that's all I have to say, really. Thank you for listening to us.
Okay, thank you. That's two folks that are speaking against. Is there anyone else that wishes to speak against on this item? Okay, I'm going to go back and see if Mr. Shepherd, is he here in the audience? Okay, is it anyone here representing Home Bank on this one?
That would be me.
Okay, please state your name. And
John Zollinger.
Okay, Ms. Nesbitt, I need to get you to fill out a speaker card too.
John Zollinger, I'm the North Shore Market President for Home Bank. Tab can't be here because she's in the hospital, unfortunately. You know, we inherited this property under not so great circumstances, obviously, when a bank takes over property. And, you know, from my perspective, the building's already 11,000 square feet. And so our request was to try and make the zoning match the building and the property more appropriately. That's why we requested the zoning change. You know, obviously we want to market the building to as many people as possible. It helps our value. We're trying to recover from a loss from this perspective. So, you know, we don't want to change the landscape of the area. The businesses that have been there before were using it for an office and a warehouse. Unless, like you said, they're going to knock down the building, and I understand that concern. You know, what's there is very viable building. It's almost 5 acres. There's plenty of property. There's a lot of room in the back. We're not asking for anything industrial. we don't think that's appropriate for the area. What we're asking for is something that in my opinion, fits better to the building that is there today. If you go to 5,000 square feet, anybody who buys it they're not going to want to buy it because they're going to be reluctant to be able to do anything with the property. If they try to improve the property, they can't expand it, they'll have to contract it. So it becomes an inhibitor to anybody who might want to purchase the building. As to what the realtor might say, as to what she wants to do with the property, obviously she wants to sell it to the person who's going to give her the most money. We do too. Everybody would want that. But you know, we understand that north of Thompson Road, we really don't want a whole lot of retail, and that's not necessarily the intent. Like I said, the intent really was to try and match the zoning to the structure that was there already. So I appreciate your time.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak for this? Okay, we'll move to the rebuttal phase on this. Ms. Nesbitt and the other lady, do you wish to rebut something that was said?
I don't have a lot more to say, although I think he just kind of reinforced what I said. They are thinking that 5,000 square feet is not enough to develop it to its full potential commercially. And I don't think it is either, and I don't think it should be developed to 12,500 square feet. I think that up there, I think it's an NC2 for a reason, and I stand by what I said before. Nothing's changed.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and again, I would like to see as part of the proposal some type of stipulation addressing the need for proper drainage on the property as part of the improvement, whatever improvement these people have in mind.
Okay.
Thank you.
John, you wish to have any rebuttal? No, sir. Okay, I'm going to close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commissioners. Ms. Casabon.
Yes, I concur with Ms. Nesbitt. Looking at an area that on the corner of 25 and 1078, there is a little strip mall that they ended up doing like one section of it, and the other it's plumbed. Everything's in place, and it's just not taken off into the building of it and so on. It was zoned commercial years ago. I don't think this is an area in which we would need any other heavier commercial. We did this as a church, institutional, and it was very viable for a while, but I don't see any compelling reason to change the zoning. I'll make a motion to deny.
All right, we have a motion by Ms. Casabon to deny, seconded by Mr. Matthews. Mr. Willie.
I just want to mention that I also feel like NC4 is just takes away from the character of that highway. NC2 is compatible, and I have to go along with Mr. Casabon.
Okay, Mr. Matthews.
I just got a couple of questions before we vote on it. Helen, NC4, the book I have, and maybe I'm out of date, but it shows a maximum building size as 10,000 square feet. Has that been changed?
No, sir, it has.
Okay, so the 12,000 square foot that Ms. Nesbitt was talking about, that's not NC4.
Well, 12,500 square feet, and then you can also have a mezzanine that would not exceed 20%
Well,
upstairs. It is 12,500. Yeah, 12,500.
including a mezzanine? Mm-hmm. Okay, then this has been changed.
With no more than 20% additional upstairs mezzanine for
Okay.
storage.
Well, okay, then what I have is
Additional.
out of date. Would you please give me a new one? Okay. If there's anything built on this property now, even if they use the same building, will there be some requirements for a review of the sewage system?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay, so part of the problem that these ladies are complaining about should be taken care of if there's a new tenant or a new owner operating a business on that piece of property.
Yes.
Great. And also, there are some rather stringent requirements for a commercial property abutting residential as far as the buffers and light pollution and that kind of stuff. So if there's a new owner and a new business, some of that should be addressed also to take care of these ladies' problem.
We would address the landscaping, the parking, and the fencing as well, yes.
Okay, good. I have no other questions and obviously agree with the motion to deny.
Mr. Davis?
Yeah, one question to staff. Currently, as is, the 11,000 square foot building that's on there now is out of compliance, correct? For NC2?
Well, it's grandfathered in.
Okay. With that being said, if an individual came in and owned the NC2 and it was operational and was merely trying to get it into code compliance and requested an NC4, would this commission grant it, would you think?
I think that's what's being asked.
Excuse me?
I'm just saying, if somebody wanted to go make sure they were within code compliance, up to 12,500 and had an 11,000 story building just to be code, regardless whether it was to do something else. Additionally, if this was changed to NC4 and somebody wanted to tear the building down and build a new building, that would also take care of all the drainage problems because they would have to be permitted, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we have a motion
got
and a
one more
second
question.
to deny. Mr. Willie?
To staff. Okay, if it remains NC2, someone is still able to use that building as NC2 use, even though it's not in compliance with, as far as square footage?
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second to deny. A vote yes will deny. Please vote. We have a vote of 7 yea and 1 nay. Motion carries to deny. Thank you. All right, next item, item 4, zoning case 14-08-064. Existing zoning's A2 Suburban District, proposed zoning A2 Suburban District, and manufactured housing overlay. It's 4.736 acres. This comes to us by Parish Council motion of 6-5 of 2014, parcel located at the end of Okefenokee. Okay, there it is. East of Louisiana, 41, Ward 8, District 6. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential and agricultural uses. There's a mix of mobile homes and stick-built homes in the area. Staff does not object to the request and recommends approval.
Thank you. Anyone in the audience wish to speak on this? Is anyone in the audience on this case? Yes, ma'am. Come forward. I think there may be some questions. Are you the, are you the petitioner?
I think this came from the council.
Yeah, it came from the council. Will you mind coming up to the mic and stating your name and fill out a speaker card? Are you the property owner also?
Yes, sir. My name's
Okay.
Diana Crow.
All right. You tell us what's going on, why we need to add the mobile home overlay,
Okay,
or manufactured housing overlay, excuse me.
we gave a temporary permit, and I don't know what happened. Something happened, and they said that it couldn't be a mobile home, it had to be a house. But it never was a house, it was a mobile home sited in. And so we had a temporary permit and everything, and we had the okay to move the mobile home in and work on it and stuff, paint, that kind of thing. And so I did all of that. And then I guess I waited too long, but nobody told me anything. And I had my temporary permit. I paid my $281. And then they said something about it couldn't be a mobile home. So it's just went through so many hands. It started with Mr. Davis, and it's been over the years. So in 2013, I was gave a temporary permit, which is right here.
Okay,
And it's for our daughter, and she is disabled, and she lives in the house with us anyway, so it's really not any more traffic on the road. It's way back by itself. We own 26 acres there. And this is, the road goes right into it. It's got private drive, everything. I mean, I don't know what you,
okay, I missed your name.
Diana Crow. And I have all the paperwork for where I applied for my permit and everything. And I got a temporary permit, and then I got the permit from the health department. I put down a treatment plant.
Are you living in it now, or is someone living in the trailer now?
No, ma'am.
To get
Because
the
we don't
permanent-
have our permanent permit.
To get
pipe.
electricity?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Everything's pretty well done, except for the things that you had to get approved. Which
So we're here just to get a code, okay.
give me a temporary permit.
Okay,
And
all right.
so.
There was another person that wished to speak too? Okay, all right. All right, so, Ms. Casabon,
I'll make a motion to approve the
Second.
overlay.
we have a motion by Ms. Casabon to approve, seconded by Mr. Matthews. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries, thank you. Next item is item 5, zoning case
Thank you.
14-08-065. Existing zoning's A1 Suburban District, proposed zoning's A2 Suburban District. It's 4.906 acres. This comes to us by Parish Council motion of 6/5/2014. The parcel located at the northwest corner of Shelby Road and Section Road, Ward 2, District 6. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses. Staff sees no compelling reason to increase the density in the area, considering that the property is surrounded by A1 zoning. At this time, staff would like to recommend denial of the request.
Thank you. All right, is the owner of the property here? Yes, sir. Please state your name and address, and be sure to fill out a speaker card.
My name is Brian Moran. I own the property. The actual site in question was a residence on the back corner of that property that was destroyed by Hurricane Katrina. And we moved away from that property, and we're just now getting back to try to rebuild it. That is a site that was handed down. The property's been in my family for probably 70, 80 years. And what our plan was to build a home on that back corner, upgrade the existing residence when we first started our family. That home was destroyed by Katrina. We moved away due to multiple reasons, the storm and so forth. We're just now getting back to try to do that, and now we see that the zoning has been changed, and the existing residence doesn't matter anymore, that it used to be a residence. So with all that being said, obviously we can't get a permit. Now, in the process, we're going to have some surveying and everything done. We have 2 small children. This property's been in my family for roughly 70, 80 years. And we would like to go ahead and split the property for future references to give to my 2 children. This property, I would hope, would be in my family for another 100 years. And that is the major request. Obviously, you have to have the permit for the house, which we can't get with the zoning now. So we were advised, considering what we consider our master plan, to pass it on to our children, would be go ahead and have it rezoned and cut up in 3 equal sections, 1 for our house and 1 for each one of our children. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than glad to answer them, but that's pretty much this is no desire to sell. This is strictly just to go ahead and make arrangements in the future so I can hand this property on down to my children as my father did to me. As you can see, it's been in our family for quite some time. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Okay, let me see if there's anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on this. I see no one. I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Ms. Casabon.
Yes, I know this area, and he is correct. It has been in his family a long time. And I think this is looking to the future, and they don't have to come back to us to give it to their kids and go ahead in one step. I'll make a motion to approve.
And a second.
We have a motion by Ms. Casabon to approve the zoning change, seconded by Mr. Willie. Mr. Matthews.
Yeah, maybe I'm not fully understanding what we're trying to do here. We have almost 5 acres, 4.9 and some change acreage, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And we want to put 2 houses on that almost 5 acres.
Actually existing now, and I'm not sure exactly what you're looking at, on the very front of the property, they have 2 existing houses. One which is vacant, which is my very elderly grandmother, which my family built that for her 30 years ago, when she had gotten real sick.
Okay.
And my concern, or my option, is the very back corner of that property, which a residence has also been there for roughly, actually 80 years. Now, obviously, it didn't get put back into service until roughly 20 years ago when we moved on the very back corner. And the storm come through and destroyed that property. We went to the council after the storm, and at that time we had impact fees, so we took all their pictures. We've been paying a power pole back there on that back corner where we actually want to build the new house. We've been paying a power pole since Katrina, I don't know, $7, $8 a month, whatever it is, thinking that when we finally got around to come back to build this house, that would help with y'all or zoning or anything, permits or anything to show that. Now, I do understand that the zoning was changed, recently or after Katrina or whatever, so, I know that doesn't matter, that there's always been, for probably the last 30 years, 3 functioning residences on the 5 acres.
Okay, currently, there is a residence that's in the area close to Section Road.
Yes, sir, that would be the front side, yes, facing Section, yes.
And is that a trailer or is that a regular
Yes,
house?
there's a trailer and a very small house there,
Okay. And
We actually live in that trailer on the very front corner right now.
Okay. Steph, is there a manufactured home overlay on this piece of property? And does it need that?
Not that I'm aware of. Not that I'm aware of, sir.
Okay.
There isn't one, and do they need it?
If they want to place a mobile home, they will need it.
Okay, there is a mobile home on it, but that can stay since it's grandfathered in, is that correct?
Correct, yes.
Okay, and you all are planning to put a stick-built house?
On the back corner, yes, sir.
Okay,
I say back corner, yes, the back.
okay. And you all are ultimately planning on subdividing this property?
For
our children.
our children, not for any type of development or sell outside of the family or anything like that. Just simply because we are going to have to go through a lot of this process.
Okay.
We're just going to go ahead and do it all and be done with it.
Okay. All right, that answers my questions, thank you.
Okay. Any of the commissioners have any further questions? Please vote. Motion carries to approve. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming, too. Item 6, zoning case 14-08-066. Existing zoning is A1 Suburban District, proposed zoning A2 Suburban District. It's 10.92 acres. The petitioner is David W. and Joanne V. Moray. Owner is the same, partial located on the south side of Willie Garrett Road, west of Louisiana Highway 450, being 11630 Willie Garrett Road. Ward 2, District 3. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential and agricultural uses. Staff sees no compelling reason to increase the density of the area, considering that the property is surrounded by A1 zoning, and recommends denial.
Thank you. David W. or Joanne?
Yes, sir.
All right. Tell us a little bit about what we're doing here.
Good evening. My name's Dave Morer. My property is approximately, well, it is 10.92 acres. It's a rectangular shape, as you probably can see by a survey on there. What I'm trying to do is, in the front portion of the property on the right side, there's a 50-foot entrance driveway which leads back to my residence, which is approximately 1,000 feet off of Willie Garrett Road. I would like to provide 2 acres in the northeast corner, fronting Willie Road, approximately 150 feet by 600 feet, to my eldest son for allowing he and my daughter-in-law to build a house there and live, next to me on the property. The reason for this change to A2 is when I went to the zoning board, went to Helen and talked to her about it, and Ron Keller, they told me that the way it was set up now on A2, that I would have to give up my whole road frontage, the whole 300 feet across the front to zone it that way. It'd have to be 5 acres. And there's no possible way in that front portion. I only have like a little over 4 acres there, and then there's a pond in the middle right behind that, which doesn't show on the survey, but there's a pond which takes up basically the whole width of the property other than the driveway and a little bit to the left side before my residence. My wife and I didn't want, my son for one thing doesn't want 5 acres of property. He would like at the maximum amount 2 acres. We also did want to give up that whole road frontage in the front. My wife likes looking out her front windows and seeing my pond and seeing back out across my field to the highway. I also did want to give up, that's a good pasture in the front. I was willing to give up half of it, but I have several horses, and I would like to keep part of it as a pasture. And like I said, we'd like to, I know somebody said, I don't know exactly what the dimensions or whatever for the A2, but I know that when I did talk to the zoning, to Ron Kelly, he told me that going A2, I could go with a minimum of 150 feet of road frontage on that, and that's what I proposed to do, 150 feet on the far left corner, northeast corner. Like I said, I have 3 grown children. 2 of my other children were provided properties. Actually, that was my daughter that just left. And her husband got property from his father. I have another child who got property from his wife's mother. My other son, I want to provide him a place to be able to build a residence. And I'd like it to be next door to me, and this is the reason for this, trying to get this proposal to change the zoning.
Okay, thank you. All right, does anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commissioners. Mr. Willie.
I guess a question of staff. I see that he's looking to rezone the whole 10 acres. Is it possible to just rezone only the 2 acres that Ms. Moore is requesting?
Absolutely.
Sure.
And still have enough road frontage left for his property to be compliant?
Yes, absolutely.
Would that be a problem, Ms. Moore?
Can I
Yeah.
say something? If we did that, would it be possible to do the 4 acres in the front? And reason behind that
Or
is,
4 acres.
and do it, and possibly in case I wanted to split it up into 2 acre parcels, one for my son who's living there now, and I'm thinking that in a couple of years, I'm gonna retire, and I thought about either selling my place in the back and building me a little small house in the front.
Will that still be compliant?
Just,
if you did
could we do the 4 acres in the front rather than the whole 10.92
Would you be
instead of
willing to
2?
amend your request?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I would, because I don't want to develop the rest of it or anything. I was just told it was probably better to just do it all at one time rather than come back later if I wanted to do something with the other part in the front. So we just did it as the whole 10.92. But yeah, if we could do it just on 4 acres in the front,
If
I would be-
you're willing to amend your request, I'm willing to make a motion to approve.
Okay, yes, I'd like to request to
Okay,
change
I'll
it
move for
to
approval for the-
4 acres versus, no, it's gonna be like this across here. See where this right here, that's a fence? And then right here, there's a driveway coming down here, so it would be in this part right here, from this northeast corner over 300 feet, and then back to this fence line, which is approximately 600 feet, whatever it would work out to be dimension-wise, but. Well, I do. That's what I'm saying. I'm not gonna do all the way to this property line. It's 50 feet right there. That's for a passage. Well, I mean, there's no other way
Helen?
to do that. I mean, you can't.
Helen, are you in a hurry for this?
No,
You
I
in a
mean,
hurry for this?
no, I mean, my son is, we'd like to do it soon if possible. I mean, no, I
Well,
don't have
I'm
to
just
do it
thinking-
today,
all right.
next month or whatever, no, sir.
Helen, are we concerned about describing that 4 acres? Because I
Yes,
think we need to be
Because-
if we're not.
What is the problem with the drive
If we
now? the 50
postpone
feet?
this till next month, he can come back with a description of the 4 acres.
just as a point of clarification, here, I'm pulling it up here on the phone, but the A1 Suburban requires a minimum lot width of 300 feet. So at this point, we have to consider the fact that he can keep the rear portion zone A1, but he would have to he would have to
300
rezone.
feet?
He would have to keep 300 feet.
In the
So
front, well, I mean, that's all I have in the front is 300 feet.
Considering that it's 380 feet, then to rectify my answer to you, Mr. Willie, he would have to fully rezone the front of it to be able to remain and conform to the A1 in the rear.
Okay, so how many acres does he need to rezone?
Well, he can rezone the 4 acres, but he would have to rezone the frontage, the complete frontage, to remain in compliance with the A1 and the A2 as well.
And then he'd have to grant a servitude.
The servitude's there
And
already.
grant
Servitude's
himself,
there, to back to my house.
grant the servitude of passage to the rear.
Okay, but would it be better for him to come back with that defined so we know exactly what we were doing?
If the petitioner, the
Or-
owner agrees to it, we can do that.
Or can he
What
get a
would-
variance for the 300, minimum 300 foot for the A1?
No,
Okay.
we cannot grant any variances.
Mr. Murray, what I'm suggesting is we need to have exactly a description of what that 4 acres would be and a servitude described for us to properly rezone this.
Well, in other words, I'd have to get a survey, is that what you're telling me, before I do it?
Not necessarily surveys, I'm sure the staff could help you describe that 4 acres.
Well, I mean, I can tell you what it is. I'll tell you, it's 300 feet across the front and 600 feet deep.
Okay, that's what
Is-
you
is
want
the
to have
portion-
rezoned?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're looking at 300 by
But she's saying I can't
600.
do that because the driveway, the whole property is 350 across the
Okay,
front.
but, correct me if I'm wrong, Helen, if we rezoned the front 600 feet to A2 and have a servitude granted, a right of passage, that would take care of the problem.
Yes, but you would have to rezone the full 350 feet along Willie Road.
Right.
And unless, if I'm mistaken, Mr. Moore, that's not his wish. He would like to just rezone.
No,
that
that's
one-
fine, as long as I can keep,
Well, I
you know, the-
understand, that'll give you 4 acres rezoned to A2. Your back portion will stay as it is.
well, actually, it'd be more than 4 acres because it's be.
Slightly more than
3
4 acres,
Yes,
yes.
it'd be closer to 5 probably.
Whatever it is.
Yes,
But
sir.
that gives you, in the future, you can take your
Yes, sir.
parcel out of that.
Yes.
And that'll take care of it.
Yes,
So
sir.
the-
As long as I don't have a problem with the drive and stuff and getting it, the servitude, whatever.
You can grant yourself a servitude.
Okay, I understand what you're saying now,
Okay.
yes.
So 300
the
by
front
600.
600 feet, we will.
Well, it'd be 350 by 600.
Well, yeah,
That's what we'd have to
whatever
do,
it
because the
is.
whole front,
350
the
by
front is
600.
350.
Right away, yeah.
Yes.
So the
But she's
front,
saying it would have to go into that.
the front
to do it.
600 feet is what you're requesting. that
600
we-
foot, 600 foot depth, 350
Yeah,
foot width.
that you're requesting A2.
Yes, yes, sir.
Well, my motion is to approve based upon these measurements.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to amend the case so that we have 350 foot width by 600 foot depth, going to A2. Any further discussion? Mr. Randolph,
Just wanted to know, Mr. Warren,
pull your mic down, Ron.
I'm sorry,
You had it on, but
where is your home located? On
still
what
not
end?
picking
If you're looking on the survey there, Willie Garrett Road is across the front, 350 feet. On the far right side of the property, there's a 50-foot driveway that goes back. My home is 1,000 feet off of Willie Garrett Road, sitting on a hill. It's actually 3 hills.
It's beautiful property.
That's fine. Okay, thank
right.
you. Yeah, my house is sitting toward the back of the property. It's about 1,000 feet off of Willie Garrett Road, approximately, you know, maybe
All
a
right.
few more.
So we have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Will one of y'all go down there and check Ron tonight and see why it's not taken out? All right, item 7, zoning case 14-08-067. Existing zonings NC4 Institutional District, proposed zonings HC1 Highway Commercial District. It's .43 acres. Petitioner is Robert Traina. Owners R.A. Traina Construction LLC, Robert and Pamela Traina. Parcel located on the northeast corner of Louisiana Highway 40 and Louisiana Highway 41, being 81718 Highway 41 Bush, Ward 5, District 6. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with commercial uses. However, the limited size of the site and the zoning of the adjacent parcels as residential or neighborhood commercial precludes staff from supporting this request. At this time, staff feel that the requested zoning change is too intense for the area. Note that prior to the comprehensive rezoning, the parcel was zoned C2 Highway Commercial. At this time, staff would like to recommend denial of the request.
Thank you. Mr. Traina?
Yes, sir. I'm looking to have the zoning change because I have a potential tenant. Me and Ms. Lambert been going back and forth with the parking and everything. And we, for her to lease it from me, that's what we have to have the zoning changed.
Okay. Mr. Davis?
Yeah, I just think the property's too small to have a high-quality commercial one out there. I make a recommendation to deny.
Second.
Mr. Matthews?
I second. It just, look at this property, and there's really no real commercial around this area. There's a great deal of residential. And to go from NC4 all the way up to Highway Commercial 1 appears to be a real stretch for me, and I just don't think we should do that.
Ms. Gazabon?
Are there buildings on here already?
Yes, ma'am. There's it was a commercial building back when. It was a hardware, gas station, everything.
Around the Fifth Ward
yeah, and I
area.
purchased it, and the main problem is the parking, but what happened was the state came in when they made it a 4-lane.
Right.
And they acquired a lot of property. I'm working with the state now, actually trying to get some back. The tenant is actually working with Ms. Jenkins. She owns the property right behind me.
Right.
And she's trying to lease that also with this to give us more area. I have an engineer. We're working on a parking. We actually sat down last night and figured out we can fit the required parking. So we've been doing our homework, and it is tight. I'm not lying. It is very, very tight. I'm even proposing tearing some of the building down. There's a little extension someone added years ago. I was gonna actually take that out to fit the parking. So I'm trying to do everything I can, because what it is, the elderly lady that wants to lease it from me, she invented it's an emergency awareness box. She's working with FEMA, Kevin Davis, everybody. She invented a box that actually keeps items refrigerated without ice for like 4 to 5 days. And she wants to use this as a storage facility. Weyerhaeuser and International Paper is going to go ahead and manufacture it, and what's going to be used there, we're going to put a cooler and a fridge inside, and the rest is going to be shelving. It's a perfect opportunity, especially with the 4-lane coming in right in front of my building for emergency. I think the I-12 corridor is going right in front of it. I mean, if there was a perfect tenant, this is it for this building.
How much more parking do you need?
I think we need 18 spaces, and I will have to tear off, if you're looking at the diagram, they have a little extension that sticks out on the bottom right. I was planning on taking that down, and that would give me 4 spaces there. I could fit 3 to the left, because I personally went and measured it the other day, and we could put a few across the back, 11. It is going to be tight. Now, the thing is, with the lady that's planning on renting it, leasing it from me, it will be a very low impact. It's mostly gonna be storage, unless there's an emergency. Then, you know, it's gonna get a little crazy around then, but the way the building's shaped on a property with the state getting involved, I don't have many options. I've been owning it for a year now, and I've been going back and forth with Ms. Lambert to see what we could use it for. I'm stuck, because I either gotta tear it down, because it just happens to be a little too much space for the lot because of the highway department. I could show you pictures. It's unbelievable how much space I actually have across the front, but I can't use it. But I can use it because it was grandfathered in when Miss Witt owned it. But since I purchased it, everything changed. So I'm kind of stuck. I mean, I could show y'all pictures. I took pictures the other day. I got a ton of road frontage, but I can't use it. So I'm trying to do everything in my power, and this is the perfect opportunity to lease it.
Okay, all right. Let's see if there's anyone else in the audience that wishes to speak on this. All right, thank you, Mr. Train. I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commissioners. Ms. Casabon.
Yes, this area, so in other words, this was a commercial building.
Oh, for-
And we're looking at, because the state took the, well,
They acquired a lot of the land when they
I'm
changed
sorry,
the
didn't
two
I
lanes
acquired it when
into
they
four
came?
lane.
I remember what it
I'm sorry,
was.
didn't I make a motion?
In Helen, in the HC1, it would really go by the size of buildings. You really couldn't put any other item in there, service station, anything like that, that would fit because of the square footage. Is that correct?
Okay, anything
Sorry,
else, Ms. Casabon?
I'm trying to figure out if there was a way, or if it would, because the building is there and it was in use, and trying to figure out the parking, you know, if it's possible.
Are you asking me
I
if,
assume what if we did do it to the HC1, the size of building.
the HC1 is required for the particular use
Use,
that Mr.
the
Trainer
storage and
is
stuff.
It is
referring to.
required for
It
that?
is required.
Yes.
That answers my question.
Yeah. Okay.
Anything else, Ms. Casabon?
No.
Okay.
One other
Mr.
question,
Davis.
if you don't mind, since I made the motion to deny. Mr. Trainer, you said you were in the works of trying to purchase more property with this?
Well, the tenant is actually trying to lease some property right to the north of it to acquire more parking, just in case the engineer is designing doesn't.
That would probably be suitable, more suitable than what you're giving us now, and that's why I made a motion to
Sure,
deny.
I understand.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to deny. Ms. Casabon, do you have anything else?
No.
Martha?
No.
Oh, okay, your light's still on. Just want to be sure. All right, we have a motion and a second to deny. Please vote. This will be a yes vote, says to deny. All right, we have 6 yeas and 2 nays, so the motion to deny carries. So you can appeal it to the council, and if you disagree with that.
Okay.
Back when you got the more better parking.
Okay, now the only other thing was they put in a new highway right there, and it was in 2025, future use plans for the area to be developed with commercial uses. That wouldn't have no precedence over this at this time.
It is commercial. The NC4 is commercial.
Yeah, I mean, to upgrade it to, because it's gonna
Not
be.
at this time,
Not at
no.
this time.
That's correct.
Okay,
All right?
all right.
Okay, thank you. All right, page 3. Item 8, zoning case 14-08-068. Existing zoning is A1, proposed zoning I2 Industrial District. It's 4.83 acres. Petitioners Claude Sanders Jr., owners Old Captains LLC, Claude S. Sanders Jr., and Nolan J. Trosclair. Parcel located on the east side of Apple Pie Ridge Road, south of US 190 East, being 54-262 Apple Pie Ridge Road, Slide L being a portion of Square 17 and 20 and a portion of the revoked Lewis Street, Blue Haven subdivision, Ward 8, District 13. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses. Staff feels the requested zoning change is too intense for the area, considering that the site is surrounded by residential uses and undeveloped land. Staff recommends request for I-2 designation be denied.
Thank you. Mr. Sanders? Ms. Sanders?
Your Honor, Amanda Trosclair, Board, I'm sorry, Amanda Trosclair on behalf of the LLC.
Okay.
The reason for the request is a few things. This area has been quite changed, actually, since Hurricane Katrina. It is situated between Highway 190, which, if you're familiar with the area, is Fremo. It's the extension of Fremo, and Highway 90, which is the old highway that goes to the Wrigley's Bridge and then to Mississippi. So it's between two major highways that took a big hit in Hurricane Katrina. It was residential at that time. None of the houses have come back. It is practically desolate. And the amendment at this time on behalf of the LLC was filed with the assistance and the support of Councilman Artigue, who is from the area, and he's very familiar with this situation. What had happened, I believe in the fall and in the winter, with the assistance of the Tourist Commission, they had some interest from the film industry. They had maybe True Detective and the Sci-Fi Channel go out there for a half a day and do a little filming. Well, in the fall, they were contacted by a reality show who wanted to do a long-term project. When they finally decided that this was the place they wanted to land, they contacted hotels, they contacted food service, they had everything in place. And allegedly, the problem was they wanted to build a structure, a house, some sort of house, on the property in order to get going, and they wanted to get going in December, and zoning was the problem. They couldn't get the permits because the property wasn't zoned properly. So that is what the request is for. With the help of Councilman Artigue, they brought this request. There's nothing left there. This road now is ultimately a cut-through between those two major highways. The Pearl River is on both sides. Who knows if anyone is ever going to rebuild there. It's industrial because there's another lot there that's already industrial. When you turn off the road, there's one that's commercial, there's one that's industrial. And the hope was that should these things come back, that zoning would be one less hurdle to bring this kind of economic development to the parish. Certainly profit to the LLC and the family, but one less hurdle to bring that kind of economic development to the parish that, because of whatever happened before, that we lost.
All right.
So based on that, I would respectfully request that you approve the zoning change.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak? Yes, ma'am, you dropped something.
Claude Sand, part of the LLC.
You got that?
We have no plans on developing this property at all. If any of y'all familiar with it, it's covered with the big oak trees. We have no plans of damaging any of these trees or any kind of improvement, other than we've been upgrading the property, cleaning it up because it was covered with hurricane debris. We was suggested that we should go for this zoning change, you know, to make it easier for if we have another chance to rent it out. So our plans are not to do any kind of industrial or developing on that property. We're leaving it as is. And that's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you. Did you wish to speak also?
No, but one thing I wonder, man,
Well, come to the mic and state your name and fill out a speaker card for me.
Nolan Trosclair, I'm Amanda's father and part of the LLC. This reality show, the name of it was Fierce Competitor. They had looked at 12 other places. They picked our place because of the oak trees, and it's a beautiful piece of property now. We had a contract. It was going to pay us $60,000 for them to use it for 4 months. They planned on spending millions of dollars in the community. They were going to rent 2 other lots across the street for parking, up to 60 cars. They were going to put a cafeteria there. They would buy groceries from Mr. Lishman's and buy gas at the Indian Village Trading Post. So it meant a lot of money coming into the parish, and it went to St. Bernard. We're trying to bring tourism into the area, and I mean, look, it's profitable for me. I was going to make a lot of money off of this, and we lost it. I think something should be done to help bring these kind of projects into the area. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Mr. Davis.
Yes, I'm very familiar with this area. Matter of fact, I fish out there at the White Kitchen Preserve all the time. And I've been down this road hundreds of times as such. And it's pretty swampy out there. I mean, you have to agree, it's very low. For us just to go ahead and change something from a zoning classification of residential up to I2, that is a pretty intense zoning. And to do it just for financial reasons, I don't think it's really good enough of a reason to do that, to be honest. All those beautiful oak trees you have and stuff like that. If I say I2 and we grant I2, anybody can go in there and get a permit to clear that stuff and put some sort of bigger industrial park there. And so with that being said, I have to make a motion to deny.
We have a motion by Mr. Davis to deny. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Matthews. Just a moment. Ms. Casabon?
Yes, Helen, for what they wanted to do, they have to have institutional? I mean, the I-2?
Well, I can't confirm that. I don't know why they were told they needed an
Why were y'all told you
institutional,
need
but,
I-2?
At the same time, I don't have a clear understanding of exactly what they wanted to build on the property. So I don't know.
Okay, let me ask, why were you told you needed the I-2?
It's my understanding they wanted to build a house on the property, and they could not get the permits to do so with the zoning as it was. Oh,
So-
nor were they going to be allowed to film for an extended period of time with the zoning as it was.
Is that, I'm just trying to figure out, if there is another zoning that we could do that would fit? I just wondered who told you I-2.
And we have no problem finding a zoning that would fit the needs. No one has any intention of damaging the property in any way. This
Right.
property is actually, I believe, pictured in a St. Tammany tourism book.
Right.
And it was the Tourist Commission that helped us find the film, or helped the film industry find this lot.
But you see,
So-
one of our problems is that we know what can go into an I-2. Once it's rezoned, you might have the best of intentions. But if you know what these people want, that's what I'm trying to say. Is there another just to build a house? I don't understand why it has to be,
The zoning's appropriate for building a house.
And I
But
will
if
tell
it's
you
the
honestly,
storage or the outside storage or what they want to do, that's what we don't have enough information to know. But we just know that until we know more, that the I-2, if there's some other way that we could help you, that we could bring this industry, it's not that we're against it, but we know what can go into an I-2. Once it's rezoned, you may have to, something may happen and you may have to sell it. It's I-2.
and that's what, it was Councilman Artigue that suggested that specific zoning for this particular property. I'm not 100% sure why he asked for that zoning.
I don't know. Ms. Lambert, you turned your light on there a minute ago.
Well, as far as obtaining a building permit to build a single-family residence, they could obtain a permit for that particular, to build a single-family residence on the current zoning. However, if it was to develop the site as, building a site or outdoor storage, that maybe that the I-2 would be the most appropriate zoning, depending on exactly how the property is being developed. However, I haven't seen a complete a request of exactly how they want to use the property.
Okay, all right. I think we've got some confusion here, and I have a motion on the floor right now to deny. Bill, you've got your light on?
Yeah, I do. First of all, if this were to be considered a radio or television studio that they were going to build, then I-1 would be appropriate, not I-2. I-2 opens this piece of property up to just a myriad of things. I mean, foundry, millwork, your sheet metal products, all kind of manufacturing. Just very, very intense for a piece of property that you all are saying you just want to clear out the hurricane debris. The television program, as I understand it, is gone. That somebody else got that. That's history.
They are filming in
Okay.
St. Bernard. That particular one is
okay.
gone.
So we don't need to do this to facilitate a television program, building a facility there for a long-term television program. That's history. And to just go from an A residential designation to an I designation is real strong. Now, I admit, there's probably not a house within a mile of this piece of property. And the probability of this becoming residential, not impossible, but I'd bet against it. But I-2 is just way too strong on a speculation that you all may or may not ever have a television studio that wants to come back and do something like this. You can go clean the property up now, you can take all the hurricane debris off and save all the oaks and do all of that under an A designation as we are right now. I just agree that this is a speculation that we really don't need to do. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Randolph?
I was going to suggest that, Sandra, my mic is not. I was just going to suggest that Ms. Sanders and Mr. Trosclair, if you all would just schedule a meeting with Ms. Lambert and, I forget your name, I'm sorry. Schedule a meeting with them to help actually coordinate what you want to do and what zoning would be best for you, because right now, we cannot do that. I mean, we can't really go from a residential to an I-2. We can't.
Is it the position of the board that you would be willing to consider a zoning that was more appropriate for the needs of, let's say, another show were to come in and ask to film long-term? If we were to find out what zoning was appropriate to facilitate that, if that was the consideration, in a restrictive manner,
That's why I suggested that you get with staff.
then at this point, can I ask to defer
We can
this?
postpone this.
Yes.
Rather than deny it, and give you a month to, get with staff, and then, it'll be heard at the September meeting.
And also,
Yes. Can I make a motion?
We cannot
To
rezone
defer.
something with conditions. I mean, once it's rezoned, it's rezoned.
It's rezoned.
You as a petitioner, we have rezoned with a deed restriction. In other words, if what you specifically needed, and that even, because there's so many other things you can do in that classification. But if you're specific about it and you say this is what we're going to do, you deed it. They do a deed restriction that goes along with the title, and then we're more conducive that we know this is the only thing that's going to happen, on this property, and, and even if you sold it or whatever. It's just something that we look at too, but you need to find out exactly what you need.
Okay,
that.
well, at this time, I would ask to defer this matter to next month's docket.
Okay, Mr.
Well,
Davis, you
No,
made
I
it.
still, no, I'm not gonna change my motion to deny. That doesn't make any sense. If we do this now and postpone, it seems like we're trying to do spot zoning, and that's one of the things we've been trying to get away from all these years. So I'm not gonna change my motion.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, you're not going to have another television show within a month, are you?
We've had interest, we haven't had a long-term show, but we've had interest of a few days here and there. And certainly, that's the attempt, is to get this type of business to the parish, to us certainly, and to the parish.
Okay. Mr. Davis is not going to change his motion to deny. All right.
This just seems too speculative to me.
Okay, so we have a motion to deny. A vote yes will deny, so please vote. We got a 5-3 vote to deny, so it is denied. If you, pardon? Yeah, we got 5-3, it fails. It's a denial.
The motion was to deny.
Right.
And the motion failed.
The motion failed.
No, the motion carries.
Need 6. You have to have 6
Mr.
votes.
Doherty, how are you voting?
All right. That'll make the 6 votes then. Okay, my vote would automatically go on to the 5 anyway. So the motion was to deny. It is denied. My suggestion is that you get with staff, and the appeal cards are over here to my right, and appeal it to the council. That'll be heard at their October meeting?
Get with your councilman.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right, thank you. Okay. All right. All right, item 9, zoning case 14-08-069. Existing zoning is A4 single-family residential. Proposed zoning is A4 single-family residential and manufactured housing overlay. It's .37 acres. The petitioner is Roger Warner. Owner is Roger Warner. Parcel located on the east side of Oak Avenue, south of Sycamore Street, being 57370 Oak Avenue, Slide L, Louisiana. Being lots 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, Square 9, Beverly Hills subdivision, Ward 8, District 14. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses, including manufactured homes. Staff does not have any objection to the request and would like to recommend approval.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Please state your name.
Roger Warner. Good afternoon, council members. It's nice to be here.
Good. We're commissioners, not council members.
Okay, commissioners, I voted for you.
All right. So, Mr. Warner, what are you're just wanting to put a manufactured home on this?
That's correct. And move one that's already there over.
So you have one, you can have 2?
It's on the property line right now, and I want to move it over.
Oh.
Okay, so you're not going to put an additional one, you're just gonna move
Yes.
this one
Yes, I
over
purchased
onto,
I purchased one in May.
lot 19A?
I want to put it on 21A, the new one. And the one that's already there, I want to put it on 19A.
Okay. I guess I'm missing something here, I don't see any drawings on. Okay. All right. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Mr. Davis?
Yeah, so you own 3 of these 3 lots? 21A, 19A, and 17A?
Yes.
All 3? And so you're proposing to go ahead and put another mobile home on 21A and move the existing mobile home that's in the middle of 17 and 19A to 19A?
Yes.
I make a motion to approve.
Yeah.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve zoning case 14-08-069. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you.
Gracias.
Wow.
All right, item 10, zoning case 14-08-070. Existing zoning is A2, proposed zoning NC2, indoor retail and service district. It's .34 acres. Petitioner is Robert F. Cheek, owner is Jacqueline Vadrine. Parcel located on the northwest corner of US Highway 190 and Pontchartrain Drive, being lots 1, 2, 8, and 9, Block 23, Forest Glen Edition, Ward 4, District 7. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses. Considering that the site is surrounded by residential uses, staff feels there is no compelling reason to recommend approval for the request and recommends denial.
Thank you. Mr. Cheek, you in the office? Office? Chambers? This is our office.
Depends on the definition of office.
That's right.
Hello, my name is Robert Cheek.
Hi, Mr. Cheek. Tell us what you're wanting to do here.
Ms. Vadrine will be selling a property, and she was trying to get it zoned commercial to get a small dentist office or something like that appropriate for the area.
All right. Does anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commissioners. You might want to stay up here just a moment because there may be some questions for you. Thanks. All right, Mr. Davis.
Yeah, Mr. Cheek, I know this area very well. I live in Lacombe. I know the area between Lacombe and Big Branch, how we have some commercialization in Big Branch, and we have some commercialization in Lacombe, but you're kind of stuck in the middle here at Pontchartrain Avenue.
Yes, sir.
I'm concerned about, basically, this individual owns 4 lots?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you only have a 70-foot frontage on US Highway 190, so obviously the turning lane right before Pontchartrain Avenue would be very dangerous. Personally, I see it that way. It's kind of an odd shape since you have 4 lots with a big L design. So most of the distance for commercialization would be on the Pontchartrain Avenue side, which would be 159 foot.
Correct. Yes,
That
so-
way. So it's kind of an odd situation here. I do have to agree with the staff, though. I don't see any reason to go ahead and make a motion to increase the density and just leave it as residential. So that's my motion, is to deny.
We have a motion to deny by Mr. Davis, seconded by Mr. Matthews. Any further discussion? Please vote. This is a motion to deny. Yes vote is to deny. It's unanimous, 8-0 to deny. Thank you. Item 11. Zoning case 14-08-071. Existing zoning's HC2, proposed zoning HC2A, Highway Commercial District. It's 1.54 acres. The petitioner is Jeff Shane. Owners McCalman LLC, parcel located at the southeast corner of US 190 Service Road East and Bode Lane, Ward 4, District 5. Staff?
Mr. Chairman, staff as well as the petitioner would like to request to maybe consider hearing case 71 and 72 together and vote separately.
All right. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion to hear cases, zoning case 14-08-071 and zoning case 14-08 and 072, hear them together, but vote separately. We have a motion and a second. Please vote. Motion carries. Thank you. All right. Staff?
The information for zoning 071 and 072, the findings are the same as well as the recommendation. So the 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with commercial and industrial uses. The requested zoning change to HC2A would not allow for more intense uses on the site. However, it would allow for an increase in the maximum building size from 20,000 square feet to 75,000 square feet. Considering the size of the site, staff does not have any objections to the request and would like to recommend approval for a requested zoning change to HC2A for both case 071 and 072.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Shane.
Thank you, Mr. Doherty. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm in Covington. I represent the property owner and petitioner, which is McCalman LLC. We appreciate you combining these cases because there are a lot of similarities. This service road is just north of the Fairway or Judge Tanner Drive intersection with 190, just south of I-12. Case 71 is actually a current, there is a building there. Many of you may know it to be the Atmosphere Movers business. It's the former site of Portion Meats. Actually was an industrial site for probably 25 plus or minus years where there was meat packing and other activities at that location. My client has purchased that property and hopes to redevelop it. In fact, intends eventually to demolish the current building and to develop some form of commerce at that location, perhaps retail, perhaps office building, probably something, though, that would certainly fit in that corridor. The parcel on the north side of Bode Lane, which is case 72, is an undeveloped parcel. It is just south of the building that holds the Zeno Grain Company that some of you may be familiar with its location. My client does have a plan to build a very nice approximate 50,000 square foot building at that location, an office building that would certainly be a nice home for some current businesses in our parish, but also hopefully attract some businesses from outside our parish to maybe come live with us here on the North Shore. The request for the zoning is pretty simple in that the HC2 zoning, which both parcels currently have, limits the square footage to 40,000 square feet. We believe in all likelihood that our scale is going to be larger than that. So before we can actively market, put deals together, try to get the right tenants, and think about building the new building and maybe eventually taking down the Atmosphere Movers building, we'd like to have the opportunity for more capacity. If any of you have any questions, I'll be glad to address them when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Shane.
Thank you.
Anyone in the audience wish to speak on either of these two cases? All right, I'll close it to the public, bring it back to the commissioners. Mr. Davis.
Yeah, Mr. Shane.
Yes, sir.
Once this was granted, if this is granted Highway Commercial 2A, and it looks like obviously it's a pretty simple case, you're going to go ahead and develop north and south of Bodette Lane, is that what it's
Yes.
pronounced? Bodette Lane. Obviously, any sort of infrastructure such as maybe widening of the street, if it's needed for the commercialization, would have to be addressed, or something would have to.
We understand that we've got to meet all code requirements as it relates to the type use, the use that we select, and the building permit requirements in that regard. So if there's infrastructure needs for anything that code requires, we appreciate you mentioning that, but we understand that. And once we define the scope of our project, we'll obviously figure out if there's sufficient infrastructure or if we need to do something else.
Right, and if you just by chance happen to sell both of these properties to the same, let's say, same business, and they decide to develop both on both sides, you could build an overhead over Bodette Lane, and it'll be very professional looking.
Well, we'll keep that in mind.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve. Ms. Casbon, you had your light on? Okay. Pug?
Jeff?
Yes, sir.
The only problem I have, if we're considering the two properties as one, we're talking about a total of little over 3.7 acres between the two,
Separated by a road.
and separated by a road.
Yes, sir.
And we've all seen the best intentions sometime not come to fruition. Once we pass this, we're authorizing or we're legalizing, whatever the phrase you want to use, the jump from a total of 40,000 square feet up to 150,000 potential square feet. That's a lot of square footage on 3.7 acres.
If I could add a caveat to that.
Please.
I don't disagree with your arithmetic, but also, as you know, you have to look at the code, and there's a couple of provisions that are very important. Number one, the lot coverage requirement for both zoning classifications, HC2, HC2A, is limited to 50%. So the footprint is limited in scope. Now, that doesn't mean you can't go up, but the maximum height in each district, HC2 and HC2A, is identical. It's the same. So what I would suggest to you is that the lot coverage requirement, the parking requirements, the landscape buffer requirements, all of those things are going to regulate or constrict the site to some extent to keep it in scale.
Okay, that answers my question.
You're correct that it can be larger, but I think the possibility of it being something crazy, there's simply just not enough land there.
Okay, Mr. Matthews.
Jeff, currently you all are planning for these to be two separate projects.
Absolutely.
Two possibly 75,000 square foot buildings.
Well, really, 50,000 square foot building in the northeast corner.
Okay.
There is a plan to build that.
Yeah.
And there's no plan as to how we would redevelop the Atmosphere Movers property, other than the current plan is to actually demolish that building
Okay,
and
so,
remove it.
but we're not looking at developing both of these together as one parcel.
But
enclosing Bodette Road and all of that stuff. So
No,
what we're
I-
looking at is two separate cases and we need to think about them as two separate cases.
Yes, sir.
Although
They were
we're
only
discussing
joined-
them together, it is in fact two separate cases.
They were joined only because of a lot of the similarities. Same owner, same zone, same request, really the same demographics. But you're right, they're two separate and freestanding parcels, and they may end up having different destinies.
We have a motion and a
Mr.
second.
Manel?
No.
Yeah, I was just going to clarify that these are two separate parcels that we're addressing, and Mr. Davis's motion is for which case? Because there will have to be two motions.
Oh, I'm sorry.
correct?
I make a motion to approve both cases.
No.
Yeah,
One at a time, 71.
Oh, I'm sorry. Listen, I'll make a motion to approve case 071 first, to
Okay.
approve it.
Bill, do you have a second on that?
That's my second.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Please vote. That motion carries. And do I hear a motion on 72?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Matthews, seconded by Mr. Davis. Let it clear. It's been slow tonight. We're working it too hard. All right, please vote. Motion carries on that one too.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. All right, page 4. We're getting down to the end here. Item 13, zoning case 1408-073, existing zoning is NC4, Neighborhood Institutional District. The proposed zoning is HC2, Highway Commercial District. It's 1.89 acres. The petitioner is Mark V. Jones. The owner is Emily J. Camille Jr., testamentary executor, parcel located on the northeast corner of Louisiana Highway 36 and St. Landry Street, being lots 1, 2, and 3, Block 10, Garland addition to the town of Claiborne, Ward 3, District 2. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with commercial uses. The 2025, considering that the Highway 36 corridor is developed with a mix of single-family residences, multifamily residences, commercial and industrial uses, staff does not have any objection to the request and would like to recommend approval.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Please state your name.
My name is Mark Jones.
All right.
Evening all. Appreciate the board hearing this petition. I'm here to speak in favor of the zoning change. Again, it's like I'll never in my lifetime be able to so eloquently state as Mr. Shane did in that second item. It's on the northeast corner of Landry and St. Landry and Highway 36, and it's for the exact same reasons that he detailed, that strip, that neighborhood, that area of the highway, all is consistent with the zoning that we're asking for this to be now. It's commercial. The immediate next door neighbor is a self-storage facility. There's commercial and retail right in that area all over the place. And that's all we're asking. We're not asking for it to change in the nature of what it appears to be already.
All right, thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this? Come forward. State your name and be sure to fill out a speaker card.
I did. My name is Kim Salter. I live on St. Landry Street, and I'm here with several of my neighbors. We live in Sunrise Park subdivision, most of us, or Chandler subdivision. St. Landry Street is the main entrance to a large residential area, which is over 200 homes. Sunrise Park, the subdivision I'm in, has 81 home sites in it. When we went through the comprehensive rezoning, we looked at this area, and meeting with the planning department, we agreed with the neighborhood commercial because it was on both sides of the road. We fully understand that Highway 36 will be a commercial area. We just feel that HC2 is just too extreme for the entrance to our subdivision in this residential area. I think it's different from the one that Mr. Shane had earlier. That's further down the road. It does not have an entrance road into a subdivision along the side of it. And we just feel it's a total different case. There will be commercial up and down Highway 36, we know that, but we just think that HC2 is too extreme for the entrance to our area. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commissioners. I'm sorry, yes, rebuttal. Mr. Camille, you have any comments?
I will offer this. I appreciate what you're saying, and there was a time I would have agreed with that. But the objections I have to what she's saying are two. One of them is that what this property is being asked to be is a Highway 36 entrance property. It's not a St. Landry. The other thing is that what the function of this property would be in the end would be in addition to that existing storage facility. And what I've come to learn in the past few years in researching storage facilities is it actually makes one of the best, one of the safest neighbors for a residential community that you can have, that it ensures close to no traffic. There's no, it's better than a mediocre residential neighbor is what I've grown of the opinion of. That it's a clean facility, it's one that operates quietly. There's just, it's hard for me to come up with a reason why it would be a bad neighbor for a residential area. If it were next to my house, I would far more appreciate it than a convenience store a block down the road.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Salter, you have any comment?
Yes, sir. The mini storage has certainly been a wonderful neighbor, and we really don't have an objection with that. The problem is that what's allowed in HC2 is far greater than just a mini storage. And if it's allowed to be that, the people could sell the property in 2 days, and anything else could go there that's in HC2. There's no guarantee that the mini storage would go there. Like I said, they have been wonderful neighbors. I agree with his statement that it's not intrusive at all to us, but there's no guarantee to us that that is what would go there. And we object to it, and we'd like to keep it as NC4, since we have no guarantee that this will be a mini storage. And, you know, we have other issues we certainly wouldn't, and he said it would access on 36, but we have no guarantee of that either. I spoke with the planning department, and they said they can't guarantee that all that would be required on St. Landry Street would be a 30-foot planning zone. There would be no buffer. We also don't know if that would include outside storage, and if it had outside storage with a fence with RVs parked behind it, that's certainly not what we want the entrance to our neighborhood to be like. Again, they're great neighbors, but they're not limited to just that with HC2.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'm gonna close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commission. Ms. Casabon.
Yes, when we've looked at this very carefully through the years, we knew that 36 would be the commercial corridor, but we also have been watching these two subdivisions, and it not only is the Sunrise and the other one that she mentioned, it is a gateway. It goes through the back, and there are some more homes in that area. I thought that when we did the comprehensive rezoning, that the NC4 would be the most protected for that area. Everything else that's commercial were homes that they went commercial, and they really put the commercial, there's no new commercial buildings. They used the existing homes on 36. So those things kind of blended in and still look kind of residential. So I believe that this is still the correct zoning, and I'm going to make a motion to deny.
We have a motion by Ms. Casabon to deny. We have a second by Mr. Lauren. Willie? Okay. All right. Bernie, I think Bill had his light on. Go ahead. Next.
Yeah, it looks like, I understand the homeowners' concerns, but there is a significant amount of HC2 directly across the street from St. Landry. There is HC2 just a few hundred feet down the road to the east, it looks like. and this is a serious mix of a lot of different zonings. There's both some residential and highway commercial. I think the Abita Highway, Highway 36, is going to be going, and particularly this area is going to be going more highway commercial, and this will become a major highway to the parish in not too many years. And I think it's an appropriate zoning.
All right, Mr. Davis.
Yeah, my only point is, if I had an overhead look of all this, it looks like gumbo. You got NC4, you got A2 inside of NC4, you got Highway Commercial 2 directly across the street next to an A6. I think if we make this NC4 into a Highway Commercial 2, you're just adding to that mixture.
Mr. Willie?
Just want to just make notice that most of the AC2 is on the south side of 36, and the NC4 was put in place to serve as a buffer for those subdivisions. So that's where I second that motion.
All right. We have a motion and a second to deny zoning case ZC 14-08073. Any further discussion? Please vote. Vote is 6-2 for the motion to deny, so the motion carries to deny. Thank you. All right, item 14, zoning case 14-08-074. The existing zoning is A2. Proposed zoning is PF1, Public Facilities District. It's 2 acres. Petitioner is Robert Barnett. The owner is Robert I. and Phyllis B.
Burns.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Robert I. and Phyllis B. Burns, a parcel located on the east side of Fuchsia Street, south of Harrison Avenue, Ward 3, District 5. Staff?
The 2025 future land use plan calls for the area to be developed with residential uses. There is a fire station currently under construction on the abutting property. The zoning change is being requested to allow for future expansion of the fire station. Staff recommends approval for the request.
Thank you. Mr. Barnett?
Yes, thank you. Robert Barnett on behalf of Fire District 12. This is an adjoining parcel that we wish to purchase, not necessarily for the expansion of the fire station, but the way it's situated, we're going to have trucks. We're trying to make sure there's an adequate green space and some coverage for the neighborhood. So we've got a good price on the adjoining lot, and that's what we wish to use it for parking, storage, but no major structure at this time is planned at all. We're just building a brand-new station.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this? I'll close the floor to the public, bring it back to the commissioners. Ms. Casabon?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Casabon to approve, seconded by Mr. Matthews. Any further discussion? Please vote. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Text change. That's what Bill was trying to get out the way. It was kind of shuffled in the packet. Zoning case 14-08-075, a text change, ordinance to amend St. Tammany Parish Unified Development Code, Volume 1, Zoning, Section 6.01, Plan Unit Development, Overlay relative to the open space and major amendment to PUD. Staff?
Yes. First, if we address the first page of this text change, it addresses open space, and it gives a definition of open space as well as number 4, which would allow for no more than 50% of the required open space to be satisfied as limited uses. And this is actually, this regulation was actually under Ordinance 523 under the PUD, and basically was not transferred under the UDC. So we're basically requesting to add this language to allow for a portion of the property that is being inundated by water for a period of more than 4 months in a calendar year to be used as a portion of, to meet the minimum open space requirements under the PUD. And on the second page, we're addressing the major amendment to the PUD. Within the previous years, as you probably know, we've had numerous requests for major amendment to the PUD. In many cases, the requests are for a very slight increase or decrease of the open space or the density. So here, what we would suggest is to have a number 3, a cumulative of the reduction in the total of the originally approved overall acreage of open space by more than 5% or below the 25%, as well as a cumulative increase in the density of a development by more than 5% of the total of the originally approved overall acreage. That would constitute a major amendment to the PUD. Another aspect that we would also like to address is the setback adjustment. You know, at times we've had requests for just 1 lot or 2 lots within a subdivision to change or to adjust the setback. And what we would like to request here is that a setback adjustment for an entire phase of a section of a subdivision of more than 10 lots would be considered as a major amendment to the PUD. However, if it's less than that, all other requests of setback adjustment affecting less than 10 lots will have to be appealed to the Board of Adjustments. And this ordinance is presented to you, the zoning commissioners, and I would be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Helen. Mr. Carlos.
Yes, sir. Carlo Hernandez. You know, I have some major concerns about the proposed changes, and I want to highlight some of them. You know, it's interesting what she said about in the first page how this is. But let me begin by saying the open space definition. Right now, there is an open space definition in place right now. So I'm curious. Would that replace this? But it doesn't say anything about replace it. It says adding. So I don't know. Do you add it at the end of what's existing now? First question. The major concerns, though, is on the second page here on, you know, and the major changes. Anything that's not major is minor. Minor meaning that the staff administratively takes care of it. Everything major comes before the commission. Look what's being eliminated from that. The use of the land is not being eliminated. But then, number 2, the use in bulk of significant buildings and structures. Why is that being eliminated? I would think that we should be concerned and want to keep the use and the bulk of buildings in a PUD as a major concern. If that's being changed, let's bring it before the committee. Let's not do it administratively then. So, and then number 3 is being eliminated altogether. The location of open spaces, that's being eliminated altogether. The reason, what is the reason for eliminating open spaces? Because some minor increase, and then we get into the, you know, what's the revised number 3. So anything 5% or below is going to be done. You don't have to worry about it. Then apparently, it's taken care of. It's okay. Then the interesting one about that is read the rest of the first sentence, and then it says, and or below the minimum of 25% of required open space. Now, earlier in page 1, you will find that open space requirement is for a minimum of 25%. Now we're saying in page 2 that it could be less than 25%? Is that where we're going with this? That it's possible that even though we have a requirement on the first page that it's 25% minimum, that now we're going to say, oh, wait, it possibly could be less than 25%, right? That's the way I read it. 25% is not necessarily the open space requirement then. It could be less than that, according to the way I read, you know, this. And I would say, well, wait a minute, why would you want to do that? You have a requirement on one saying 25% minimum, and now you're going to say that it's possible to have a less than 25% on the thing? That to me should not be there at all. I mean, that, you know, that I don't understand that at all. This thing about the 10 lots and things, well, you know, I certainly have heard some, you know, some reasons, and you all remember maybe some examples of that. Again, do you object to those kind of things coming before the commission as a major amendment? I would hope you don't. I would hope that you don't have any of these changes that are being proposed on page 2 and just leave things the way they are, is my hope and recommendation to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak on this? Ms. Lambert, I'll let you address some of Mr. Carlo's comments.
On the first page, there is a definition of open space currently. However, this is the definition that should have been in the ordinance, and that's what we're trying to clarify. Also, there was a discrepancy, as you can see, where it says green space. Now, we're using both of the same terms of open space. Now, if we move into the second page, the use of land, if you go to number 2, the use and location of basically the use of the land and the use of a building is the same. If you have a zoning on a piece of property, it determines what the use of the land is going to be. The third one, the location of the open space. Well, at this time, as you can see this evening, we have a case where we have a slight increase in open space, which triggers the request for a major amendment to the PUD. And that's the reason for number 3, where we're saying it would have to be a cumulative reduction of the total originally approved overall acreage. So when we're talking about what we're referring to here is that if in 2003 there was a PUD approved and they suggested to provide 37% of green space, if they're coming back and requesting a reduction, it would always be based on the 37% of green space. It's not going to be 37 minus 5% and then, 33 minus 5%. To address the question regarding the minimum of 25% of required, the minimum of 25% is still a requirement. However, anyone has the right to make a request to go below 25%. It doesn't mean that it will be supported by staff. It doesn't mean that it will be supported by the zoning commission. However, they have the right to make a request. And the reason why we adding this to the sentence is to make sure that we don't go over the 5% and or below the minimum. So we want to make sure that we're addressing that minimum of 25%. Hopefully, I'm making myself clear here. I'm not really sure if, I don't exactly remember what was the next comment after the next question.
Concerning the 10 lots.
The 10 lots. Well, this is what we're suggesting, is that if there's a request for setback adjustment for a section of a subdivision or more than 10 lots, then you're pretty much addressing an area of a PUD where you would make a request with a valid reason or show that there's a possible, a hardship that the zoning commission would look at and it could consider granting a setback variance for a certain number of lots or a portion of a subdivision, which when you start looking at a request to change the setback on a lot-by-lot basis, that should be addressed by the Board of Adjustments. As you all know, the Board of Adjustments, when there's a request, the board look at if there's a practical difficulty or if there's an unnecessary hardship before they can grant the variance.
All right, thank you. Mr. Davis, I believe your light came on.
Yes, Helen. Looking at the major changes to the PUD you just defined, number 5 with the setback, we've had this case before where we had about a subdivision with 360 lots, and gentlemen would come up and ask for 2 lots and ask them to go ahead and change the setback. So I believe number 5 is appropriate. Let the Board of Adjustments do if anything over 10. That makes sense to, under 10, yeah, I mean, that's fine. So that would be considered a minor revision and that wouldn't even come to us, correct? That's fine.
Well, it's either or. If you're requesting a setback adjustment and
Right.
you're requesting it for anything less than 10 lots, it will be addressed by the Board of Adjustments.
By the Board
So
of
it will be
Adjustments.
addressed by one
Right.
board or the
But
other.
if it's over 10 lots, obviously, it has to come to us.
Correct.
So I think that makes sense. I'm a little concerned about this at below the minimum of 25% of required open space. Does that mean if I have if I have a proposed zoning PUD that has a requirement, let's say, or let's say they're gonna have 40% open space, and then they don't come back to us unless it's below 25%?
No,
Is that what that, is that, but I mean, if they say they want to reduce it from 40% to 38%, 40% to 28%, would that still come before us?
yes, if it's more than 5%,
Oh, I understand, okay, I'm sorry. But more than
and
5%,
or, it could
and
be,
or,
it could be one, it could
oh,
be
I think
and
that's where
or.
yeah, I may have to leave it to my lawyer friend here next to me to understand that, because that and or is terrible, to be honest. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Matthews.
Might as well address that right away. Helen, is this saying that a PUD could have less than 25% of the required open space?
As I stated previously, the minimum of 25% is still a requirement of the PUD. However, anyone can make a request to go below
Okay.
the 25%.
Currently,
And anyone can make
Yeah.
this request.
currently, any PUD can come to us and say, we have 25, 30%, whatever, but would like to change our PUD and have less than the 25%. Even though it's a requirement, we have the right to grant such a request.
You have the right to look into it and see if there's a
A
hardship.
reason for it, yeah, okay. And if it's more than 5% reduction in the open space, then we would see it. You're taking out our looking at the location of open spaces, kind of being immaterial to us as to whether they have it here or there, as long as they have it. That's our prime concern. You all look at where it is in particularly. We don't normally look for that. And that would not be, if they were changing from next to lot 1 and moving the open space to next to lot 22, that wouldn't be considered a major amendment to the PUD and bring it back to us. Is that correct?
Correct, as well as, perfect example, the last case that is on the agenda this evening that we heard as the first case, is that there was a slight increase of a 1 acre. So basically, you're moving what was supposed to be developed as lots into green space, which triggered the major amendment to the PUD.
Okay.
I mean, you're more than welcome to voice
No,
a concern,
no,
but most
yeah.
of the time when there's an increase in green space, it's something that is, looked at in a positive way.
Okay. The open space definition, there currently is an open space definition. Is this going to be replacing, is this going to add to that or replace that?
We'll
There
replace
can be
it.
2 open space definitions?
No, not that I'm aware of, no. We'll replace it.
So this isn't going to be added, it's going to replace the open space definition.
I will confirm that, but I would, yes, because it addresses the PUD.
Okay, I'm confused.
Let me read this definition here. Well, actually, it addresses an unoccupied open space to the sky on the same lot with the building. So we may have to also do an amendment and have 2 definitions or change that definition.
Okay. What I would suggest is we drop from this ordinance the current change, and let's get a change that'll take care of all of this.
Correct.
So why don't we, for the purposes of this ordinance, delete the open space definition that you're proposing and come back with a open space definition that'll take care of the existing one and what you propose.
If it's
Because, I mean, we have
what you wish to
two
do so.
open space definitions, we can't have them competing, can we? Terry?
You gotta stick with one.
We gotta go with one or the other.
Correct.
So, since they're competing and appear to be not necessarily mutually exclusive, but not the same definition, I don't think we can approve the new one, leaving the old one as it is. So why don't we just delete the current provision of open space definition that you have in the proposed ordinance, and then you all come back with that change?
But we still need to have a definition that is related
And
to
I-
this
I-
here.
I-
So
I
we-
I don't disagree with that at all, but we can't have two competing definitions of open space.
correct. So however, maybe we should suggest to table this here, and then we can combine the two together
Okay, you
and
want-
come back to you.
All right, are you suggesting table the entire?
Right, yeah.
Okay.
That's probably the best
That,
way to
that would
address
be.
it.
Let me also address one other thing. In the fifth paragraph on the second page here that begins with furthermore, and it discusses processing fees,
Yes.
you've deleted the section where it talks about the establishment of the fees. My question is, who will establish the processing fees? Who will approve those amounts? How does that work? Because you've deleted that the Department of Planning will establish those fees.
Well, actually, the processing fees are already established into the Code of Ordinances. They're already established.
Okay? Would it not be worthwhile to relate this section, the processing fees, as related in section 1, 2, 3, 4, or whatever it is, to relate back to that?
If it's the wish of the commission.
Yeah. Yeah, I would suggest we reference that section when we're talking about the processing fees, so it will be easy for someone reading this, some developer, to know what they are,
Absolutely.
okay? And with that, I move to table or postpone this ordinance.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Matthews to postpone, this ordinance until next month.
Yes, or whenever they come back.
Okay, and who second? Mr. Davis? Any further discussion? Well, there's no discussion on postponing. Motion carries, thank you. All right, that's, the end of the regular agenda. Is there any old business? Any new business? Do I hear a motion to adjourn? Thank you. This is probably the longest meeting we've had in a long